What's up everybody, it's your boy Skipx here with another video for you guys here today, and what we are going to be talking about are my first impressions based off of the Guilty Gear Strive beta which happened over the last couple of days. So with that being said, let's jump into it. So let's jump into the pros. Number one, the game is very fun to play. Obviously, there were a lot of things going on about people talking about how the game felt very different from Xrd and Revelator, which it very much is. It is a very different game. So if you thought you were going to be able to just carry on from what you had in that game and jump into this one, it's not exactly going to be the same thing. Obviously, there are little things here and there with every character that are pretty similar, but for the most part, this is a brand new feeling game. It is very different from what Xrd and Revelator were. Point blank period. And with how they are using dust within this game and little things like slowing down characters to get an extra hit in or do another hit on your combo, is going to be very interesting to see how people use that mechanic and expand upon it when people really have this game in their hands and are able to just go into training mode and lab it up for a few hours at a time. It's going to be very interesting to see, because I don't feel like this is going to be a game where it's very combo heavy. Obviously, I do feel like there are going to be touch of deaths and there are going to be very big combos, but I think for the most part a lot of people will be sticking to the simpler stuff, mainly because there are really easy ways to get massive damage in this game and do very simple button inputs. It is a game where basically to get into the corner, like a lot of recent ARC system games, they die very quickly, especially May and Soul. Like, you get put into the corner and you get touched, you're basically dead if the right person is fighting you. That's it. So overall, I do enjoy the gameplay. Moving on from there, to put it very simply, the visuals are amazing. ARC Systems manages to improve how their games look every single time they put out a new project, from Guilty Gear Revelator being amazing to the next step with Dragon Ball FighterZ looking gorgeous, then Grand Blue Fantasy looking even better than that somehow, and now they're moving on into a brand new art style which retains some of the stuff that they learned from Revelator, Xrd, Dragon Ball, and Grand Blue, but basically being its own brand new thing because it looks distinctly different from all of those games. From the little bit of motion blur that they put on characters when they do high and impactful moves, or like the way counters work, it just looks absolutely stunning. And not to mention the lighting on the characters in the different stages and how the stages look themselves. Overall, it's just a visual treat to look at, as you can see on screen right now. So I'm not going to go too much farther into that. Again, as always, ARC System makes great music. It's not really something that needs to be expanded upon. From BlazBlue, Guilty Gear, and all of their games in between, they always have very good soundtracks. So I don't need to go too much into this, and I'll just jump to the UI. The UI has improved a bit. Like, obviously we can see the burst meter a lot better than what it was in some of those initial scans and some of those initial gameplay videos that we saw, where it was like this little thin blue bar under the character's face portrait while fighting. But there are a little bit of accents now around the clock area instead of there being nothing there. And it's just a couple of little things here and there, but the UI is something that is kind of improved, but also I still have some cons for it. And with that being said, let's jump into the cons of Guilty Gear Strive as of my first impressions. Number one, the damage is a bit high in my personal opinion. While I do find that it's kind of cool being able to like do a quick 5 or 6 hit combo and getting like 50% damage, I do find it a bit ridiculous at times. Like, as you can see me on screen right now using Soul, and like Potemkin, I believe, has like a 50% command grab or something of that nature. There's no reason why he should have that. That is ridiculous. Maybe 1/3 of your health bar, maybe 1/4 or somewhere in between, but there's no reason why Potemkin should be doing a 50% command grab. That is actually crazy. Unless this is supposed to secretly be Guilty Gear Cross Samurai Showdown, I am not a fan of that. I feel like they should tone back the damage just a little bit, because I do like the high damage. I just feel like it is a bit too much. So just pull the damage in just a little bit, maybe make that 5-hit combo instead of doing 50%, maybe let it do 40 or even 35%. And getting into the cons of the UI, I'm not going to rant about it being too simplistic or too minimal, because I do feel like minimalistic and simple UIs can be made to be very unique. For example, Nier Automata, which is a great example of a very minimalist UI system, is very unique. Like, if you've played that game and you removed all the text from the screens, but if you looked at the UI, you would know which game it is. That is kind of a great example of a minimalist UI. The thing is with this Guilty Gear UI is that if you removed all of the Guilty Gear characters from it, you wouldn't genuinely be able to tell what game this is. The color schemes are just really plain. It's like mainly red and white for the most part, and I am not a fan of it. Maybe go with a better and more unique color scheme, maybe a couple of more accents here and there, not so much that it clutters up the screen, but maybe at the very least think about adding a few accents here and there, because I think it's a little too much for us to ask of them at this point to completely change the UI. I very much think that they are dead set on making this UI very minimalist and very simplistic, so at the very least add some accents to it to liven it up and maybe change up the color scheme, because the red and white isn't really doing it for me. And getting into some of the more specifics of the UI, again, I still don't like that the character portraits move when you lose health within the game. I don't like that. It's very awkward to look at your health in the middle of the game when that happens. 2, I still do think there should be like some solid black background behind the health bars, just for us to make a quick glance to see how much health we have and guesstimate how much damage we could take, how many risky moves we should implement, or should we back off a little bit. And it's very awkward to see that when there's no like black background behind that bar, and when your character portrait is halfway down the screen, not from where your eyes usually would see it at. So hopefully they can figure that out and hopefully make those small changes there. And getting on into the character select screen, I just don't like it. Go back to like the circle format, or just make it a square or rectangle format where you just click over one square at a time. I don't like this little translucent black background with these really small character portraits on there. I am not a fan of it. I do enjoy the fact that they list out these characters as like unique, power, all arounder, and things of that nature. I like all those things, and I do like that they show which ranges these characters are most effective at, whereas some characters are better at longer range, neutral, or even up close. That is a very cool thing that older Guilty Gears didn't have, but the aesthetic of how they show it is just not visually pleasing. So hopefully they can do something about that. I don't know exactly what they should do with that character select screen, but they need to do something to it, because I am not a fan of it. Moving on into what a lot of people consider to be the biggest issue of this beta is the lobby system. I'm not a fan of it. Most likely if you're watching this video, you're not a fan of it. It just doesn't look good. It's very weird as compared to how they used to do it, and I'm the type of person, don't fix something if it ain't broke, just try and improve it as you continue to use it. And this is one of those situations where I get Arc Systems is trying to kind of move Guilty Gear into a new direction and a new generation, but at the same time, if something works properly and people enjoy it, there's no point in changing it. And my personal opinion, I can definitely say that this is a change that is definitely unwanted. I enjoy Arc Systems' lobby system and how their lobbies work, and how they have all these cool artwork where you can dress up as your different characters in their different colors and different outfits. And now that's all gone because you have like this little, well, to be quite honest, crappy looking avatar. They don't look good. They don't look appealing. And overall, it's a bit of a clutter when like you are trying to get into a match and all of these people are beside each other, and you're like squinting to try and see somebody who's not in an actual fight, because everybody's kind of gathered in this one area within this lobby. So that's another thing that really sucks. So hopefully they'll go back to the old lobby system, hopefully in some shape or form, because this new one, I'm just gonna put it out there, I am not a fan of it by any means. And last but not least, the online aspect. Number one, I'm not going to talk about the actual delay or any of the online play, mainly because, as Arc Systems has already pointed out, that this beta ran on delay-based netcode, but in the full game it is going to be on rollback netcode, which leads me to believe that Arc Systems was originally just going to keep ignoring the fans and eventually just release this game fully with delay-based netcode, but because people kept talking about it and people wouldn't shut up about it, I guess Arc Systems finally were like, okay, we kind of just gotta do this because people aren't letting this go. But what I will say is that I had a lot of trouble connecting to matches. Between all 3 of the online sessions where we got to play online, I only got about 10 or 12 matches at best, and a lot of those didn't really feel good, and about half of them I got kicked out of while playing. So I don't know, I genuinely don't know about that stuff on the network side of things, but hopefully that is something fixed within the main game, because that is going to be very annoying annoying if that is an ongoing issue into the full release. So just to summarize all of this up very quickly, the pros are is that the gameplay is fun and fast as always, the visuals are amazing, the music is great, and the UI has improved a bit, but the cons are is that the damage is a bit too high in this beta, the UI is still too simplistic and doesn't really have a unique identity to it, and they need to add something to it to make it more Guilty Gear-esque and just make it more unique in general. The lobby system, art, and general implementation is not good, and last but not least, there is a lot of trouble connecting to matches, which will hopefully be fixed in the main game. Let me know your opinions on the Guilty Gear Strive beta after playing it this weekend, or let me know your opinions after playing it at a tournament or so. Let me know down below. But with that being said, I will see you all in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one.